There, now I can see. Yeah, I got the little live thing.
Cool. I'm going to put up the slide.
Okay. There we are. Are you drinking something?
Agua.
Am I the only one who took this happy hour seriously?
Probably not. Speaking of which, we should probably let's get started. Let's address the folks. Hey, everybody.
Oh, hi, people. Ah, there we go.
There we go.
Thanks now.
Good to see everybody. Let's see.
I need to not make weird faces because it's like full of and I'm getting
Well,
very self-conscious about it.
that's definitely happening. So, hey, everybody. My name is Patrick. I'm the communications director for Film Streams, and this is Diana Martinez, who is our artistic director. Happy Friday, Diana.
Hello. Happy Friday, everyone.
And happy first day of your new job. This is the official first day, right?
This is my official first day. Yeah.
That's big. That's big. So we thought today would be a fun day to sort of hop on and do a Q&A to talk about that new position. If you have any questions, I'm going to be asking Diana some questions. If you're watching along, if you have any questions, I'll be keeping track and I'll try to collect some of those if we have time to ask Diana. No guarantees, but shoot those our way and hopefully we'll be able to use some of those if we have time. We're going to try to keep this to about 30 minutes because, well, it's a beautiful day out there. So we'll have some fun here and then head out into the world. So first of all, congratulations, Diana. You joined us, is it 4 years ago this month or is it in June?
July.
July,
July
okay.
12th. I looked it up today.
Yeah, it's an auspicious day. It's time to, reflect.
Yes.
That's right. So, for those who don't know, tell us about where you came from, how you joined us, and kind of what have you been doing describe what you've been up to for the last 4 years with Film Streams.
Yes, I moved to Omaha from Southern California by way of Oregon 4 years ago. As the education director, the first education director in the organization. And so I was running the daytime education program for middle school and high school students, as well as I started courses in the adult education programming at Film Streams. So I've been doing that for the last 4 years and then being part of the programming team. Some people might have seen me doing some Q&As, leading some discussions and things, talking, gesticulating wildly in front of people. So yeah, that's how I am here.
That's fantastic. Of course, I knew that, but great to hear that refresher. So I guess to zoom back a little bit, what I kind of am wondering what led you to pursue a career in film. And we were talking a little bit earlier, and I thought more interesting way to ask that would be to ask about an early film experience or a particular film that you saw that was formative for you, that sort of told you that you had to work in film, that you wanted to do this kind of work.
You told me you were going to ask me this, and so I thought about it.
That's
So
good.
much so that I Googled movies and what years they came out. Because I was like 10 years old is when you start being cognizant of the world, right?
Sounds
Sure,
about right.
that's a good age. So I was looking things up and I was like, what was I watching when I was 10? Inappropriate things. My parents let me watch a lot of things. For example, The Full Monty when I was 10 years old. Why was I watching that when I was 10 years old? Who knows? But
It's a good question.
like my parents watched a lot of movies, a lot of different kinds of movies. So they immigrated from El Salvador before I was born. But when they were here, they kind of like used film to like learn the language and to just kind of learn the culture. Um, and it was like a thing for them to do together. And so I kind of grew up watching a whole bunch of different things like English and Spanish language film and television. Um, and so I don't really remember there being like a formative movie experience because I remember it kind of always being around. Like I was definitely like a Disney kid. Like I grew up during the Renaissance. I remember going to the theater, watching all those movies. I remember going to the theater to see True Lies. Again, inappropriate. I was too young.
Big
I
time.
I remember. I think the first thing I remember kind of looking at as like a film in some way or like being really interested in how it was made was The Matrix,
Okay.
which is 1999.
Sure.
And that was like, so my dad was like, he didn't even go to high school, but he always like really just like loved to read. He was a big reader and he was at this point in time kind of going through a lot of philosophy.
Hmm.
So like when we watched The Matrix, he was like, "Oh, Diana, this is what it's referring to, Diana." And then I was like, "What? Reality is not real?" I was like, "Oh, I was like so mind blowing," and it was like the first time that I think my dad, like, my whole family watched it, and my two older sisters like liked it. They were big Keanu Reeves fans, as the Gen Xers their age were. But I think my dad took kind of me under his wing as like, we're gonna do film analysis, like we're gonna learn how this film works. And I just remember when we like bought the DVD on the day that it came out and it had so many extras and you could see like the old school martial arts like form that they use with like the actors on like the pulleys that are like
Mm-hmm.
being pulled by people. Like I just very vividly remember that as maybe one of the first times that I was like not just interested in the story or the aesthetics, but actually of like how is it put together?
Right.
Because it was so clear that it was not being made in a way that other people, at least that I had seen, had made movies before.
Sure. So the light bulb goes on that like there are
Mhm.
decisions being made
Yeah.
by people. That's it's on purpose. Like the movie isn't just like a thing that appears.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a big moment for sure. That's cool that I was that's cool that I was The Matrix. That's such like a like generationally mind-blowing movie and that
Yeah.
it was like so like formative in that sense as well is really cool. So yeah, I guess next question, let's get down to brass tacks. What does an artistic director do?
I don't know, Patrick. I'm just kidding. So, as a lot of you guys know, like we are going through some organizational changes right now with Rachel Jacobson, our executive director, who will be leaving in July. And with that, Casey Logan, our interim, will become interim executive director. He's our deputy director now. And then I'm stepping into the role of artistic director. So, Rachel, as wonderful and high performing that she is, kind of has her hands in a whole lot of different things right now. And so her job, a lot of the main aspects of it, which is the programming and then like, the spearheading and stewarding this organization is basically being split into two. And so I'm taking on that programming aspect as well as a lot of the film, like overseeing the film marketing stuff that Casey does right now as deputy director. So it's a lot of, watching movies, making sure that we're playing the things that people in Omaha should be seeing, kind of having my finger on the pulse of what's happening in the film world. making sure that it's getting out to our patrons and that they can see what we're offering. And then the fun thing in all this is that as education director, I get to keep my hand in doing the adult education stuff. So the daytime education program will be run by someone else, but I get to still teach all these classes and do a lot of that like film enrichment stuff. So it's a lot of things. It's a very nebulous amount of things. But it's like exactly what I don't know, have been wanting to do, and have, the way that we work in that office is very collaborative. So it's a lot of stuff that I've kind of already been doing in a smaller capacity for a couple of years now.
Nice. Yeah. It's all exciting stuff. And I want to talk about the future of what that means in a second. But of course, we should talk about the present.
Yeah.
Where, today marks 7 weeks closure, and that, and we're holding firm there like that. So that's right. Yeah. So what does that look like now? What does FilmStream's programming look like in the era of COVID?
Yeah, it's a really good question. We've been very lucky in that the distributors that we work with, which are smaller independent distributors, have really amazingly almost overnight become like streaming platforms and have allowed us to take part in home movies, which is the partnership between us and the distributor, where we are getting anywhere from like 40 to 70% of the proceeds of any of the films that people watch through home movies, which is on our site. And so for us, like that idea, like curation is still happening. Like we don't want the FilmStream's page to be, like Netflix in a way that's telling you to watch things that, 5-10 years ago you've already seen. Like we're still trying to make sure that we're selecting the most important stuff, the most fun stuff, the most kind of provocative stuff that people should be seeing. And so my job is kind of to curate all of that, and more, like there's more stuff available. I think distributors are starting to see that not only do people want to watch, a whole bunch of different kinds of stuff, but they also really want to support their local theaters by doing that. And we're really lucky that the distributors have kind of realized that, we need them as well.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It's been a strange and interesting time, I think, for all of us to see how that pivot has gone, how quickly it went. I feel like my feeling is like these distributors, in some cases it's true, but they must have all just been working on their own platforms, like the way that we're seeing like Disney and NBC and everybody doing their own.
Right. Yeah.
All of our distributing partners must have had this in the works for a while, ready to go. If you're just joining us on our Facebook page, my name is Patrick Kinney. I'm the FilmStream's communications director. I'm talking to Diana Martinez, our artistic director. She's been our education director for 4 years, and today is her first day in her new job. In the comments, if you have any questions for her, type those up, send those on out, and if we get a chance, we'll get to try to pick some of those out.
Tina thinks I'm the best, and Virginia says congratulations. Thanks, guys.
That's awesome.
Ted, we're gonna get to your question.
Okay, yeah. So we talked about what's going on right now with our programming. What is your vision for the future? Thinking of a day, it's hard to right now, but thinking of a day when we have the Russakalov Theater and the Dundee Theater back open. What directions do you want to take us in?
That's a really good question, Patrick. I've been thinking a lot about this. And I'm just not like saying that like, oh, what a thoughtful question. Like I've actually been thinking a lot about this because I don't know. And I think like we all kind of feel this with, like Rachel leaving, like she, as the founder and executive director is like such an important part of the organization. And you're just kind of like, well, what is it without her? Like, and that's like a really huge question for like the founder of an organization to leave. And I think one of the things that she's been really successful in doing is like when FilmStream started, there was no other place that you could see independent film in Omaha. And that's not the case today. And like, as much as, that means we have competitors, it also means that like Omahans are able to see like so many more things than like people in other states and other cities are able to. And that also means that like our duty is now not just to bring kind of like the best and the biggest names of independent theater, but it's kind of like to push like the boundaries of that, right? Smaller directors, directors' first films from foreign countries that maybe we've never shown before or haven't, don't have as wide a distribution. Like, it's really, I think, an opportunity for us to kind of like, in a way, be more niche, but also like expand our selection of what we're showing. Because if we know that, this one film by this one director is going to show on like 4 other screens, like that gives us a chance to be like, we're going to take a risk on this like really small Danish film or whatever.
Right.
So I think for us, it's just pushing at that of what the original mission of Film Streams was, which
Right.
was to bring films to Omaha that otherwise wouldn't come here.
Yeah, that used to be a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think like as far as per capita, I think Omaha, as far as like specialty film programming,
Yeah.
has to be per capita again,
Yeah.
has to be up there with like New York and LA because there's just so much film stuff happening here for a town of less than 1 million people.
Mm-hmm.
Really, it's really, we're pretty spoiled in that sense. And I also think like when I started at Film Streams 7 years ago or so, we were still doing a lot of like very film 101 stuff,
Mm-hmm.
which we'll continue to do, of course, I'm
Right.
sure. But that's partially because this is a town without a film program. There's not like a film MFA or anything
Mm-hmm.
like that here. So we got to do a lot of those series that really like laid a foundation. And I think it really speaks to Rachel's accomplishment that our film community is now a little bit more sophisticated than that, and we can really start to do some more challenging like
Mm-hmm.
102 stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
I think,
it's exciting.
I feel like with everything that's happening, you're like, we're in it. So we're seeing a whole bunch of these, like, is the movie theater over articles all the time,
Yeah.
LA Times and New York Times and directors and, all these people. And I think that, like, clearly in Omaha, that's not the case, right? In a time when all across the country, like, theater attendance has been down, like more screens than ever are playing these films that, in other places, much larger cities, are only playing on one screen. So I think like there's something particularly cool about Omahans and their desire to support um, artists
Yeah.
that I think like really runs deep here. So I don't know. I'm excited about where we can go from here when it's no longer like, just like create that film knowledgeable community, but it's like, okay, now you have a community that's knowledgeable about film. Like, where can we go from here? And we can go some weird places, Patrick.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Prospects are exciting. So yeah, let's talk about what's next for the education program then.
Yeah, so we're amidst hiring an education coordinator right now. And then, like I said, I am taking over, I'm still keeping the adult education stuff, and then the education coordinator will be taking over all the high school stuff. That's also a weird world right now. It's unclear what those education programs will look like. For people who don't know, so the daytime education program takes place at the Ruth Sokoloff Theater. And basically schools, middle school, high schools, come to the theater for screenings and discussions. We provide a free lunch. It's entirely free to teachers. We also provide transportation reimbursement if teachers need it. We have a whole school year calendar of films that are scheduled, from documentaries to foreign films, to classics, to like contemporary independents, to hit a whole bunch of different subject areas. And we serve about 2,000 students a year, and sometimes pack our biggest house downtown, which is 206. And so like that, kind of experience, like who knows what that will look like. And so like
Mhm.
that's a question that I'm asking myself right now, that Casey and I are talking about, and that, you know, will definitely be a conversation with the new education coordinator. You know, if we do virtual education programming, like what's a way that's engaging and challenging, that's still aligned with our mission, and that also provides like community in the way that those screenings do. Like they can be really powerful when you have kids, you know, who never see each other, never around each other, you know, kids from Creighton in the same room as kids from Omaha North, you know, talking about um, you know, James Baldwin. Like that
Right.
can be a really powerful discussion. And so like how do you facilitate that um in a virtual space? Like it's
Sure.
hard enough in a physical space. So, you know, but I think it's something that all educators are facing right now. You know, so much
Mhm.
of education is about fostering a community within the classroom, within the campus itself, and like what happens when that's gone. So I don't
Yeah.
know. There will be things like logistically it will happen, but I
Yes.
think it's these like bigger questions.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess, and that leads to sort of a bigger question that I wanted to sort of start to wind my questions down with. Again, if you're watching, and if you have any questions for Diana, our new artistic director, please put those in the comments and we'll try to get to those. Right now, I see a couple of well wishers, but I don't see any questions. If you do have any, put them up. If not, totally fine. I've got some more for Diana here. So that last answer, I think, really leads to, and I'm going to sort of tee this up for you.
Okay.
But what I love about the education program is that it really is a program that I can step downstairs from the office at the Rusak Love Theater and see like film transforming the community.
Mhm.
I'm an Omaha native and I grew up in Millard. And if I was one of those kids who was bussed downtown and was in a room and shared that experience with other kids from all over the city, that would have been like my favorite thing that I did in high school ever. I was like really hungry for an experience like that when I was growing up in Omaha. So I guess what I'm leading to is like, what is the function of film in creating change? In, yeah,
Mhm.
that's it.
That's like a philosophical question. That's two dissertations worth, Patrick.
Well, it's only Friday at 4:30. I thought, some light conversation on
It's only
Facebook.
happy hour Friday at
Yeah,
4:30.
that's right.
What's the role of film in changing the world?
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I think film functions in a lot of different ways, right? Like I think the like your pat answers are going to be like they, you know, introduce you to worlds that maybe you've never seen before. Or you know, if you're watching a documentary, it can really like make you passionate about a cause that you didn't even know existed. um I think for me, like my education and connection with film is inextricably linked to my passion for the rest of the arts. So like when I was a kid, I like read everything. Like my parents had to stop me from reading. They'd be like, Diana, you can't read anymore. You're like they had to actually like limit how much I read because they were concerned that I was reading too much.
Mhm.
Um, you know, I love like going to museums and going to art, and I like listening to music, and I like film. And I think that what's like really important like right now, like obviously film can do a lot of different things for community, but I hope that one of the things that it leads to is like the importance of the arts generally as something in our lives. And I think so many times when there's moments of crisis, like those are the things that help us through it. And but unfortunately, like when there's moments of crisis, like those are usually the things that suffer in terms of budget cuts, in terms of you know, government funding, in terms of grant funding. And so for me, it's just like that emotional connection and the emotional release that you can get through film, I think is incredibly important. And I think is so much more important like now
Yeah.
because those are the place, like that's literally right now the only place that you can travel to other places and to other worlds, right? It's not even like a metaphor in the sense like um but I hope that people through film find their love of just like imagination and creativity and like the need of all of these other things to work together, because filmmakers aren't just inspired by other film, they're inspired by literature, by art, by music, by opera, you know, and it's important that all of them coexist, because you can't just have like a void of people making film with no um, education, whether formal or not, in the arts generally.
Yeah. I think you did a good job. That was that was a pretty unwieldy question. I realize now, but great job. So we have a question from Ted Warren,
Okay.
who wants to know what are you super excited about in terms of stuff coming out, either streaming now or maybe coming later, summer or fall.
Yeah. So streaming now, I think everyone should watch Deer Skin.
Yeah.
That movie is wild.
Yeah.
So I think it was, you know, like a few months before we closed, like we brought out our microscope branding, which was for like really weird out there films that were playing in the micro cinema. And Deerskin, we had already said was definitely going to be one of those that was being released for us, I think sometime in July. And so it was released through streaming, and it is a wild, wild film. I don't want to like give anything away. Just like watch it. Like watch the trailer. I think the trailer is like a very good sense of the tone and how much it shifts. So I'm excited about that movie because I just think it's really fun and like wild. And I think one of the big films that a lot of theaters are like hinging their hopes on is Christopher Nolan's Tenet. So that is still scheduled for release July 27th. It's unclear if it's going to be released at that time, but at some point this summer, we will be open, and at some point that film will be released, and I'm excited for that film. He says it's his most ambitious film he's ever made, which I don't even understand what that means in the context
What
of
could that possibly mean?
Yeah, so I'm really excited about that film.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, for like a lot of people, what happens to that film is like the harbinger of like, will cinema live? But I just think it's an exciting movie because, he like pushes himself as a director. So I think whatever he does, it's gonna be crazy.
Also, one of the biggest champions of the cinema experience too. So it'd be really poetic if we as an industry came back with his, perhaps biggest achievement. Yeah, we shall see. Along those lines, we have a question from Joe Venorni, who says he wants to know about the stuff that we had to cancel this spring. So like Crash the Cannon, The Midnights, the end of 90s Noir. What might happen to those? And then he also wants to know about potentially shifting Midnights to weekly. So there you go.
Okay.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay, let's talk about cancellation. So the canceled 90s Noir series, unfortunately, is done. So at some point, hopefully, like we can bring those films back, or the films that we didn't get to play theatrically, as part of some other repertory series. Like I think that would be cool. We did do like live tweets around those films already. So that series is kind of wrapped up. The Midnights and the women director films will be rescheduled. Those will be sometime in the summer. And the Midnights are also going to be like a live tweeted event so that you can watch on your own. And then Adam Weiner, our fellow and also like huge film buff, is going to be live tweeting all three of them that we're going to be showing. And then when we at some point when we reopen, we'll have new offerings to be excited about. So there's unfortunately a lot of things that we're going to have to come back to or note to make sure that it gets on the big screen at some point. Yeah. Any thoughts to expanding the Midnight films to weekly rather than monthly? I know this is a very important thing for a lot of people. I have not. Honestly, like that is something that's definitely worth thinking about. But I think once we know a little bit more about what movie going just looks like generally in the future, like I don't know how much, our schedules will be impacted by, the world opening back up again. So unfortunately, I can't answer that right now, but it is a good idea, Joe. And a lot of people have had that good idea.
It is a tantalizing idea. Let me refresh one more time to see if we have a final question from the audience. I am seeing that we do not. I apologize if there's some lag and somebody got one in that we're not seeing. But yeah, I guess my closing question was going to be about deerskin. And we covered that. I'll also plug it. It's a wild, wild ride. Highly recommended. It's a brisk movie, but it's also just like so endlessly surprising, but not in a super flashy or aggressive way. I'd say that it actually feels kind of like a chill out film with bizarre things happening.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird that you're relaxed by that film, but all right.
I mean, yes, fine. I'll accept it. I guess let's think about something else that we can talk about.
I will say that everything that we're playing on home movies is highly recommended.
Yes. They're all staff picks.
All staff picks, guys. I mean, but I think that that's important to say, right? Because like people don't know. Maybe they think it's just like everything available, but no, it's like definitely like selections of the things that are available that we choose to play. So like the programming that's happening on the marquee of the website is like going through the same kind of like rigorous vetting process as what it does when it's playing on our big screen. Like we don't want you to waste your time on things, even at home. That isn't right. So everything's worthwhile that we're playing right now.
All right. Well, thank you very much for doing this, and look forward to working with you.
I look forward to working with you too, Patrick.
Okay, very good, very good. Good business talk. Thanks everybody for watching. Everybody have a good weekend. Stay safe, stay home, and we will talk to you soon.